Honestly, layouts are one of the most challenging things you're going to ever have to tackle in lettering and calligraphy work. They can be so hard. And I'm not a pro, I am still learning. I learn every day better tips and tricks to do layouts, but I do have a couple things that I've picked up along the way that I want to share with you. Actually, 4 things to be exact. Hey, I'm Becca with the Happy Ever Crafter, and in this video, I'm going to walk you through 4 hacks that I've picked up for working on layouts. Before we start though, I do want to say I have another video about layouts. It's actually one of my most popular videos ever, and in that one I walk through my step-by-step process of doing a layout from start to finish. In this video though, I actually just want to walk you through those 4 hacks so that you can take them and steal them and apply them to your own work and quickly start to improve your layouts. So let's get right into it. Hack number 1 is don't write your words in order. I know that probably sounds counterintuitive, but let me demonstrate what I mean. First, write out your quote in the right order. I know I just told you not to, but bear with me. Write out your quote however you want with just your normal handwriting on your paper. I'm going to use the quote, "Creativity is intelligence having fun," because I think it's a smart quote. I know in other videos I've told you that your handwriting has nothing to do with your calligraphy, and I feel like this is proof. Okay, so once you have your quote written out, now basically all you're gonna do is figure out the hierarchy. So in this, you're gonna try and figure out which are the words that are most important to get the point of your quote across. So for me, I would be choosing the words creativity, intelligence, and fun. Those are like all the pieces that you need to kind of like see first to understand this quote really well. And you can even narrow it down to even 1 word if you want, but for me, kind of all 3 of these are most important in this quote specifically. So I'm gonna use those 3 as my most important words. Step number 2 is to use your brush pen. This is a Tombow Fudenosuke, my MVP pen. And you're gonna write out those 3 words just on the page in their own spots. They don't have to be, perfectly placed as a layout together at this point. You're just writing them out on the page so that they're down. So creativity, intelligence, and fun, I'm gonna write each of those out. So I'm really not worrying about putting these words really nicely placed in relation to each other at this point. I'm just getting them written out on the page, and then we'll be able to place them a little bit better afterwards, and you'll see how I do that. So I've got all 3 of my main words written out, and now this brings me to hack number 2, which is use block letters to your advantage. I think a lot of people are afraid to use block letters, or they feel like it's cheating somehow, but block letters are like my absolute secret weapon when it comes to layouts. The reason being that block letters don't have the annoying ascenders and descenders to contend with. So if I were to write is and having in between these words right now, they would run into each other because there's descenders and ascenders on all of these letters. Whereas with block letters, I can really easily put those words in between and they won't run into anything. So for this part, I'm just going back to my normal black pen at this point. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And I'm just gonna write in the words is and having in between. Again, they don't have to be perfectly placed at this point because that'll be step number 3. And at this point, again, I'm not worried about putting them all really nicely placed together. So I'm not even gonna try and center my word having here. I'm just gonna write it off to the side and then I'll be able to center it a little bit later. These are not my best block letters ever. Just gonna go ahead and put that out there, but you guys get the idea. And again, I'll perfect it a little bit in the next step. Just at this point, trying to get the basic like size and shape of the letters that you're gonna want, and then you can touch it up. Okay, so you're probably looking at this and thinking that it looks super off-centered and like a really crappy layout at this point. But that brings me to hack number 3. And hack number 3 is another secret weapon, which is tracing paper. Tracing paper is so helpful when it comes to layouts, and I think a lot of people overlook it and think that they need to just do it over and over and over again as a good copy until they get it done properly. So this is just Strathmore tracing paper. It's just a cheap one that I found at the art store. It could be any tracing paper. And I'm gonna just grab a piece and put it over top of my first go at this quote. And basically all I'm gonna do is trace and rearrange this layout until I'm happy with it. So I'm gonna start with my word creativity. And then I'm gonna pick up my paper and actually move it around. So let's say I wanted to put the word is exactly centered under my word creativity right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and trace that into the layout. And then I want to center intelligence under that. So I'm just going to slide this around again until I'm happy with the placement of it and trace it over. And just keep doing that until you're finished with the layout of your quote. Okay, so now the layout and centering of this layout is pretty perfect. It's exactly what I want it to look like. And now it's on tracing paper, right? So if you want it on a good copy paper, you would have to put a light box underneath it and trace it through onto good copy if you have a light box, or you put it up on a window and do that. Or you can just kind of use this as your guide and then recreate it on a regular piece of paper, because now you can see sort of, you write the word creativity and then you know that your I should start right under the T and that kind of thing. So just even having this as a reference is helpful. But there is one more piece to this if you want to step it up a little bit more, and that is hack number 4, which is if you have any blank spaces. So in this one, for example, I've got some blank spaces in these sides at the bottom here, and maybe even in the middle along the word is. Hack number 4 is to add filigree or even flourishing. If you like doing flourishing, I'm not a huge flourishing fan and I don't usually do it in my layouts, but filigree is something that a lot of people don't know about, or even just, I mean, they know the general idea behind it, but not the actual term. It basically just means those little pieces and elements that people use to fill up extra spaces. So like I'm about to do right here. I'm just gonna use a pencil to do this first because sometimes I screw this up as I go, and it really just takes some experimentation. So you could put another piece of tracing paper over top, and that's actually what I'm gonna do. So I'll put another piece of tracing paper over top here, and I'll just kind of play with what the filigree could look like. So it could just be, in some instances, some straight lines. And then underneath here, it could be some kind of circles. What I will say about filigree is that you do want to try and make it fairly symmetrical on either side. It doesn't always end up being totally perfect. And what's really handy about tracing paper is I can take this piece and then flip it and put it underneath here and just retrace it onto the other side. So you can really do a lot of things with tracing paper, but basically all you're doing here is just kind of filling out the space and having fun with it and seeing what kinds of things you can add to fill this up a little bit better. So this is kind of just me brainstorming through the filigree that I want to add, and now I'm going to put it onto my good copy. So I'm just going to use the same monoline black pen. I don't like doing filigree with brush pens, so I'm going to put it underneath and line it up how I like, and then trace it through. Now if you want to be really precious, you could use a ruler for these straight lines, but again, just trying to show you quickly here kind of the process that I go through. And there we go. So I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. I think if I sat down and I wanted to make this video really long, I could keep going and maybe add some more filigree up here and kind of fill in the space above the word creativity. And then maybe, you know, round it off up here and do something in the bottom to round it off. But even just the way it is right now, I'm actually pretty happy with the way it looks. And honestly, it's a pretty simple process when you follow those 4 steps. You don't have to do anything fancy. And then once you have the layout like this, you can even, you know, embellish your letters a little bit more, add some color, do a little bit more fancy block lettering, different kinds of lettering, and all those good things. So this is kind of the 4-step process and the 4 hacks that I use in most of my work, and I hope you found them helpful. If you liked this, I would be so grateful if you would hit the thumbs up button down below and subscribe to the channel, because the more of you here, the more free videos I can make, and I put out 2 new ones every single week. The next video I'm going to link to is the other layouts video I have, and I hope that this one in combination with that one can help you get a super leg up on your layouts game. Hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.